I'm taking every college that's in NCAA football and putting them into a massive playoff, which I already did a couple weeks ago, but this time the rosters are a bit more updated, and because Florida State got snubbed from the real playoffs, I figured we gotta see how they do in an expanded one. Each of the 4 regions have 32 teams in them this time, so there's a chance that your school will be a pretty low seed, and I'm not gonna show all of the brackets now, but we're starting in the round of 128, and since there's only 126 teams in NCAA football, Michigan and Washington will get first round byes. That means that this is our first matchup, and the higher seed will host every game until the Final Four. Home field advantage isn't everything though, because unless Minnesota recovers this onside kick, they're gonna lose, and that ball just soared out of bounds. We got a MAC school taking the first dub, but the run will probably end in the round of 64, and we've got a long way to go before we see what happens there. Even though Cincinnati was a 24 seed, they have annihilated the Mountaineers, so that's a pretty big upset early on, and you know we're gonna be rooting for a ton of those in this video. It's always scary when you run into a lower seeded Power 5 team, because they're capable of putting up good fights like 25 seeded Arizona State versus 8 seeded Memphis. The Tigers need to score quick, and if they can't, they're going to be eliminated. There's about 30 seconds left on the clock, and right now this Arizona State defense is clamping up. Quarterback Seth Hennigan needs to pull off a miracle, but he had no time, so his team is going to lose at home, and so far seeding and home field advantage hasn't mattered. Notre Dame should break that streak versus New Mexico, but we sim these tournaments because we never know what will happen, and this one was simply too much of a long shot, but the Lobos have done better than I thought they would. The Irish are going to end it here with an interception though, and our next matchup is between a 13 seed and a 20 seed. What I'm starting to notice is these Power 5 programs are struggling, and Arkansas State could have ended it there, but because their linebacker couldn't hold on to this, they're going to need their defense to get a stop on Georgia Tech, and that's another one. The Yellow Jackets are 0 for 12 on third downs in this game, which is terrible, and that makes them 0 for 13. They have to pick up this 4th and 4, and they're going to, but they only have 20 seconds to reach the end zone, so they still have a long way to go, and they're not willing to burn their last time out. That means it's all going to come down to this one final Hail Mary where Haynes King did get the throw off. I can't even see where the ball's at. It almost reached the end zone, but nobody was down there to catch it, and that's another underdog that's come out on top. There's been a lot of chaos so far, and we just started, so make sure to stay tuned to see how your favorite college or colleges do. Purdue's trying to take down Wisconsin, but they have limited time to reach the end zone, and we'll see if they can handle going 40 yards in about 40 seconds. They're going to get this one to Mockabee, which takes them to about the 25, so their drive stays alive, but they had a tight end in motion, which caused this play a while to start, and that was almost caught. For Purdue's sake, they're much better off with it getting knocked down, but they ran the ball, and that's going to cause the clock to wind down under 10 seconds. Now Hudson Card's not getting the throw off, so they had to burn their final timeout, and all they can do is throw up one last Hail Mary, which was almost caught. Purdue was this close to beating Wisconsin, but 13 just couldn't get his hands on it, and that means the Badgers are going to escape, where they'll play the winner of this one in the round of 64. Going into this one, SMU's the heavy favorite, but they got off to a really rough start, so with 45 seconds left, they are losing by 7 to a 28 seed, and they're in a lot of trouble. Preston Stone has to find a way to get his team down the field, and he keeps taking his checkdowns, which doesn't help, because even though Jordan Curley reels it in, they have to use timeouts, and now on 4th and 3, they have no choice but to pick this up, and they're not going to. We have witnessed upset after upset already, and the Blue Raiders are the highest seeded team to win yet, but Buffalo could change that in their game versus Oregon. This season, the Bulls were one of the worst teams in the country, so even though they're going to lose, I didn't expect them to drop 30 on the Ducks, because it took Bucky Irving going off for them to win. Our next one's between 15 seed App State and 18 seed Boston College, and with a minute left, the Mountaineers have the ball, but they're trailing by 2 points, and if they're going to get in field goal range and go for the game winner, they have a long way to go getting down the field. It's 3rd and 8 now, and they're not hiking the ball, so they better have spent that 40 seconds drawing up one of the best plays that they could come up with, but it's only going to get them 10 yards, and they need to spike the ball as soon as possible. Because of bad clock management, it seems like Boston College is going to leave with a win, and after that completion, they weren't getting another snap off, so they'll be taking on the Ducks in the next round, but we're so far away from that, as the round of 128 normally takes forever, especially since we're getting so many close matchups. With about a minute left, Utah State has the ball trailing by 5 points, and they're going to have to go 95 yards down the field, so running it twice and burning 2 of their 3 timeouts is a bold decision, because after Brandon Johnson brought the heat, it is 4th and 11, and they're not coming close to picking it up. With a healthy Riley Leonard, Duke is able to get the win, but like a lot of quarterbacks in this video, he's transferring next year, and I can't believe how many people have already entered the transfer portal just a few days into it. I'm pretty sure Will Howard's another one, as he helped his team cruise to a win here, and Hawaii never stood a chance, just like Temple doesn't have a great one versus Missouri. However, I will give them credit, as it was much closer than I thought it would be, and we only have 3 matchups left here in the North region. Texas Tech versus Western Kentucky is the first of those, and with a minute and a half left, the Hilltoppers are trailing by 4 points, so they could go down the field and win. They have a decent amount of talent on this roster, like star wide receiver Malachi Corley, but they didn't feed him on this play. Instead, they went to the running back, who fought his heart out to keep the chains moving, and now Austin Reed is looking over there, but it was almost intercepted. That was a close call for the 19-seeded Hilltoppers, but now they're picking up the first down. And if they're able to score, you gotta wonder how much time they're gonna leave Tyler Shuck. This is going for another 15 or 20, and he broke that tackle. This might go to the crib. Easton Messer was not messing around, and Texas Tech does not have much time to get in field goal range, but Tyler Shuck's gonna deliver a laser over the middle for 30. So at this point, I'm gonna expect them to reach it because they still have 2 timeouts remaining, but this one's gonna be tackled inbounds. I don't know how far their kicker can hit from, but this could be our first overtime matchup. And on 3rd and inches, they're not gonna try and run and pick it up. Tyler Shuck's throwing it instead, and that was put perfectly on the money. I know there's only 14 seconds left, but they might as well take a couple shots to the end zone instead of taking these checkdowns. And don't tell me that they're not about to use their timeout. They have one. They could use it. They just let the clock expire and Western Kentucky win. So they must have forgotten that they even had that timeout. And what a brutal way for Texas Tech to go out. You never know what's going to happen when you sim a game on NCAA football. And that element of surprise and randomness is what makes this so entertaining. For example, Pitt just went out and thrashed UCLA, and they shouldn't have considering they're a 22 seed while UCLA's an 11 seed. Either way though, they're moving on to play the winner of this one, and it's much closer than it should be. You wouldn't expect Central Michigan to only be trailing by 6 with 40 seconds left, but if they're gonna win, they have a long way to go. And this Oklahoma State team was just in the Big 12 championship. They should be embarrassed that it's come down to the wire like this, but at the end of the day, a result's a result, and they're gonna get the one that they were looking for. So the Cowboys will play Pitt next, and we're moving on over to the East region, where Florida State will have an opportunity to redeem themselves. First though, we have to get through the top half of the East region, and Alabama was never losing this game to Akron, so now we'll see who's playing them in the round of 64. These colleges are as even as it gets, so either one could come out on top here, and that's why I didn't expect it to be this lopsided where UCF did nothing offensively. Their own defense literally put up more points than they did themselves, so John Rice Plumlee is not happy, but Cam Ward definitely is. I'm going to be interested to see which college he transfers to, but now we have a battle here in the state of Florida, and USF is practically 1 first down away from taking down the Hurricanes, so with Bynum Brown picking that up, we can run out most of the clock, and I was not expecting the Bulls to come out on top of this one. All they need is this 3rd and 2 to seal it. Byron Brown is going to take it, but not reach the marker, so USF is going to give Miami a chance, but not a good one. At least now the Hurricanes can't blame it on a missed extra point since they're trailing by 4, and they're not getting another snap off, so we have seen another upset. Byron Brown is the future here at USF, and the 24 seed has started what could be a decent run. They're playing the winner of these two with neither college being that great, and with 2 minutes left, 8-seeded Troy still hasn't scored, so they're on the verge of elimination if they're not able to reach the end zone, but they do, and the refs are immediately going to take it away. I don't know what's up with these 24 and 25 seeds winning, but they haven't lost yet, and Virginia's about to seal their win on this 4th and goal where that was not going anywhere. The Cavaliers defense single-handedly just carried them, but there's no way that this one is as low scoring. LSU's Heisman finalist quarterback Jaden Daniels helped them put up 45 where Western Michigan couldn't keep up, and nobody expected the 29 seed to anyway, but for whoever wins this one, they're going to have a tough round of 64 matchup, and Rutgers only scored 8 points, so they were never going to come out on top. If we look back on the first region bracket, this is the exact same combo of seeds that have won so far, and if the results continue to mirror each other, Maryland will win here, but the streak might end because with a minute left, Louisiana has the ball, and they're going for a deep shot already, but it didn't work out. I'm not sure I've ever seen a game at 5-7 with this little time left. They're just going to go to their running back in the flat and get off of him. That stiff arm from Jacob Kabadi is a massive deal because it was able to stop the clock instead of getting stopped in bounds, but he wasn't able to get the first there, and watching this AI is going to make me gouge my eyes out. They just ran at least 20 seconds off the clock before taking a false start, and then they dropped the simplest slant, so I can see how Louisiana was only able to score 5 points, and I don't know if Maryland fans should even be happy about this win. If the seeds keep mirroring each other, Tulane's on upset watch, but FAU is ranked that low for a reason, so I cannot believe that they are still in this game, but they're only trailing by 6, and they have the ball. They're going to have to go another 61 yards down the field in 45 seconds, but it's not out of the question, and Tulane's defense just stepped up big time there, stopping them in bounds on this 4th and 1. They're going for the prayer, and it's going to be caught inside the 35. Daniel Richardson, with his gloves on, is doing everything in his power to help his team, but the undersized quarterback almost took a sack there, and that's not good. He checked it down inbounds, which means the clock continued to run. On 4th and 5, he just floated it right to Tulane's defense. They're going to get the interception, and they've avoided getting upset at home, but they cut it very close, and the streak of the same seed winning has finally ended. Now it's time to see what Florida State can do with their backup, and Tate Rodemaker was hoping for this opportunity in the 4-team playoff, but going undefeated in a Power 5 conference isn't enough to make the playoffs these days. Anyway, he threw for 6 touchdowns in this start, and the Seminoles might take all of their frustration out on everybody. Their next opponent will be the winner of this one, and I can see why South Carolina has so many players transferring out this offseason. They just got blown out by TCU, and now 23-seeded Stanford's trying to upset 10-seeded Texas A&M, but they didn't come close as they got obliterated by 27 points, and there's no no point for them to even try scoring now. Ashton Daniels has a lot to learn from this, and Baylor being a 26 seed is wild. I know they had a pretty rough season, but this is not a freebie for Kansas, and with Jason Bean at quarterback, I'm not even surprised that the Jayhawks lost. He didn't throw for a single touchdown, and Devin Neal also struggled, so the 7 seed was put out in the first round, and Oklahoma should crush UTEP at home. However, with a minute left, even though they have the ball, they're losing by 7, and it is 3rd and 15 for Dylan Gabriel, where he's going to throw it to the back of the end zone, and it's going to be dropped. I don't know what happened to Andrew Anthony here, but he just couldn't hang on, and they're going to be in a ton of trouble if they can't pick up this 4th and 15, where he gets the throw off, it's caught, and they did get the first down plus more. UTEP might be choking as the 30 seed. They're not supposed to win, and there's no way that they're about to get 4 stops in a row on the goal line. We all saw that touchdown coming, but there is 30 seconds left, so I'm sure that they're going to at least try to avoid overtime, but maybe not. They went with a halfback draw, which burns one of their 3 remaining timeouts, but now they're to the 40, and they have to be passing on this play because they're in 5 wide, but they're just going to their flat underneath, and that's going to maybe be a first. Zach Fryer fought for all of those extra yards, but now there's only 4 seconds left, so this is probably the final play, and he got out of bounds, but there was no time left. If the Miners had better clock management, they could have attempted a field goal to get the win, but now they're struggling to reach the end zone here in overtime, and on this 3rd and 7, he fought for it. That would lead to a touchdown run, and now it's 3rd and 9 for the Sooners, where they almost threw a pick, so they're in a lot of trouble, because if they don't pick up this 4th and 9, they're going to lose. Dylan Gabriel's just going to throw it to his check down, and the Miners have shocked the world. The 30 seed just went into Oklahoma and beat a 3 seed, and that'll probably be the biggest upset we see in this entire video. Because of it, Northwestern could actually make a run, but I take that back almost immediately because they decided they'd rather get embarrassed at home to Georgia State. They didn't even score until the 4th quarter, so 2 underdogs will face each other in the next round, and I'd love to see these upsets continue, especially to Florida, but I highly doubt that happens here at the Swamp, so that's why I'm stunned that we're sitting here in overtime, and I can't believe the Gators haven't been able to beat Marshall, but they're going to pick up this first down, plus a lot more, so I'd expect them to eventually reach the end zone, but they're passing on 3rd and goal, and they're kicking a field goal on the half-inch line. Marshall could literally win this game with a touchdown. All they have to do is get 25 yards on the Gators defense, and I'd love to see Cam Fanker get it done. The lefty just missed his target there, so it's now 2nd and 10, where again he drops back, and he's also going to sail this, so it seems like the Thundering Herd are going to have to settle for 3, and that was probably their best chance to take down the Gators. They weren't able to finish off that drive though, and now they're not going to make it in here, so that makes it 3rd and goal where they get it, and Florida's in a 4th and 2 situation where they're throwing it up, and did they come down with that? The Gators should have been eliminated, but this is one of the best catches we've seen, and I can't believe Graham Mertz put the ball there, but now it is 3rd and goal where they're going to just go to their flat, and that's not going to reach the end zone, so if Marshall can stop them from getting 5 yards, they're going to win, but you know the Gators weren't letting that happen. I feel like this one's going to go back and forth forever, where Graham Mertz on this 3rd and 6 takes a sack, so they are forced to just take their field goal, and then the game had the lovely overtime glitch, so while I fixed that, a word from today's video sponsor, Prize Picks. With the playoffs coming up soon, this is a great time to get the app, and you can play in over 30 states, so there's a good chance yours is eligible. Anyway, you're probably wondering what Prize Picks is, and on there you simply pick higher or lower on 2 to 6 players' projections, and you can win up to 25 times the money if you're right, but I also like attempting smaller entries like these, and if you want some free cash to start out with on Prize Picks, code BOARD or the first link in my description will double your initial deposit up to $100. Now I've gotten the game back to where it was, and we'll see what Marshall can do. They're handing it off on 1st and 10, but every single time they've had an opportunity to beat the Gators, they've stalled out, and their offense looks like it is struggling a ton. They're not getting the first, so all they can do is attempt a field goal to stay in it, and this one is down the middle. As the 22 seed, you'd think that they'd have a little bit more in them, but these recent play calls are so passive, and on 3rd and 11, they just go with the check down. They finally get a first again, and we're at the point that if they're able to reach the end zone, they're going to have to go for the 2-point conversion as well, but that pass was off target, so now it's 3rd and 3, and they're actually holding on. No matter what happens, Florida should not be in this close of a game with the Thundering Herd, and they're getting in, so this is where 2-point conversions come into play, and they're going to get it. That puts all of the pressure on the Gators offense to score 8 points on this drive, and it seems like they're about to reach the end zone with this touchdown run, but they have to get the 2-point conversion as well, and Graham Mertz is running around. He throws it to the flat. It's intercepted. Marshall is going to get the win in the Swamp, but there is a flag on the play, and Marshall is lucky that it isn't against them. They're able to somehow beat the Gators, and what's happened in the bottom half of the East region is crazy. We have witnessed 4 straight upsets, and NC State was not letting it happen to them as well as they take down Vanderbilt, so they've set themselves up for success in the future, and now we're headed over to the South region, where teams like USC are a 10 seed, making this group very scary. Texas is opening it up, playing the worst team in college football, and if you haven't seen me rebuild Kent State yet, you should check that out after this video, but now that that quick plug's out of the way, you'll see that they won with ease by 34, and we're traveling to Coastal's Teal Field next. It's very unique, but it's not going to help them come close to beating Illinois, and we've yet to see a 16 seed win that game. But now all focus must go over to Kroger Field, where my Wildcats are going to go out and win by 21 points over 24 seeded Army. This was obviously the expected result, but it's the first time the 24 seeds lost in the playoff, and just saying, for my Tar Heel fans, a 25 seeds never lost either. Just like my Wildcats, North Carolina's going to break that streak, as they're going to beat Northern Illinois, but it was a lot closer than people expected it to be, and that's with Drake May throwing the ball almost 50 times. I'm not looking forward to seeing how my Wildcats do in the next round, but I don't have to suffer yet because we're moving on to this matchup. And 29 seeded Southern Miss is coming close to upsetting Arizona. They're down by 8 and there's a minute remaining, but they're about to get a touchdown, and they need the 2-point conversion to tie it up, but if they don't get it, it won't be the end of the world, and they held on anyway. This is setting up to be another overtime game unless Noah Fafita can lead his team down the field, and I don't think he's going to hike this ball. He was told to just take it to overtime instead, so this is the final play of regulation, and they both scored on their first drive in overtime. Now Arizona's scoring on their second, so the pressure was on Southern Miss, but they responded. Arizona would go on to score again, but they didn't get the 2-point conversion, so with that Southern Miss touchdown, they could win with a 2-pointer, and they get it. I wanted to avoid that one being dragged on like the last overtime game, so I didn't show as much there, but the fact that we just witnessed a 4 seed losing at home is insane. This has been the wildest start to a playoff we've ever had, and if I had to put money on a 20 seed, it would be Colorado. I figured they'd do at least decent in this game, and with 50 seconds left, they have a 5-point lead, but Virginia Tech has the ball, so they have to rely on their defense, and that is not good from what we've seen. It got shredded in real life this year, but this isn't real life, it's NCAA football, and on a 3rd and 6 with 29 seconds left, Drones is going to get it out in time, and that's another first down for the Hokies. They've kept the chains moving, but they only have one timeout, and they need to start getting some bigger plays. This isn't going for much, and by the time they're going to spike the ball, there's only 5 seconds left, so they're lining up for the Hail Mary. It is chucked towards the end zone. It's put where it needs to be, and that was caught. I've been waiting on something like this to happen for a long time now. Jalen Lane was able to come down with the football and then reach his way over the end zone, so the 13-seeded Hokies aren't going to lose to Colorado, and that was an incredible ending. You all are in for a treat every time I film one of these, and now we're headed to one of the only domes in FBS college football. That's where UTSA was most likely able to win in front of their home crowd, but they have to get a first down to seal the win, and Frank Harris did with that pass to his tight end. The Roadrunners will be facing either Oregon State or Eastern Michigan, who's a 28 seed, and they'd end up losing 52-16, with the Beavers taking an easy win. DJ had 3 touchdowns, and so did Damian Martinez, so they're a college to keep an eye on here in the South region, and this bottom half of the region has a ton of powerhouse programs in it. I don't think Georgia's ever been a 2 seed in any of these videos, and I don't know what's happened to them, but they're only up by 7 with 2 minutes left. Louisiana Monroe is one of the worst teams in the game, so it's hard to believe that they're still in this, but now they're throwing the interception, and that will seal it for the Bulldogs, where they should have put this away a long time ago. You never know what's going to happen in these matchups, and these two teams are very even seeding wise and on paper. Because of that, we're set up to have a very tight finish where San Jose State has the ball, and they're trailing by 5, but if they can score a touchdown, they would take a lead. So we will see what Chevin Cordero can do on 3rd and 5. He is going to find his tight end over the middle, and Syracuse might be in some trouble. They're going to need to either make a tackle inbounds or force a sack, and that is going to happen here. So San Jose State's had to hurry it up. Now there's 20 seconds left. On this 3rd and 1, Chevin Cordero is going to find his tight end again, but even though he originally had the football in his hands, he couldn't hang on to it. That's going to sting when he watches it back on film, because they're not getting this 4th and 1, and that means Syracuse is going to get the win, where they cut it extremely close, but Garrett Schrader did what he needed to, and the 18 seed is playing Georgia next. JT Daniels will be facing his original school in this matchup, and the former 5-star and Rice quarterback was not able to do enough against the Trojans, so Caleb Williams will be moving on, and he'll be playing either Tennessee or Indiana. I feel like the Volunteers never do well in these tournaments, but when you play a school like Indiana in football, you can get your mojo back, and that's what they did, winning 38-0. I'm not sure if 3-seeded Ole Miss versus 30-seeded Charlotte's going to be any closer, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, with the Rebels only winning by 17, and they'll be facing either Fresno State or Arkansas, so we're about to see which of those colleges it's going to be. With a minute left, it's all tied up at 17, and KJ Jefferson's going to keep it on the option, but they're not reaching the first down marker, so they have to take their 3, and that gives Fresno State 42 seconds to tie it up. On this first play, Mikey Keene's just going to throw it to his running back in the flat, who's going to make it to the first down, and that is very helpful for the Bulldogs because it stops the clock for them, and they're not getting much here. All they need is about 20 to 25 more yards to get in their kicker's range, but their quarterback almost threw it straight to the Razorbacks, and we'll see what Mikey Keene can cook up here on 4th and 6, where he gets it out but not far enough. To be completely honest, I didn't see Arkansas winning that, but if they can't have success in real life, at least they can have some in NCAA football, and Boise State is on the verge of getting upset here at home, but after going down 21-7, they've gotten it back tied up at 21, and they're actually going to take a lead with this field goal, so that puts all the pressure on their defense to stop Georgia Southern's rushing attack, and they're almost forced to pass pass it since they need to have a 2-minute drill. Down the field, Davis Brin's thrown up a 50-50 ball. It is intercepted, and with one first down, the Broncos could get the win, which they're about to do. It took an incredible game from their running back, but Ashton Jeanty got the job done. And to finish the South region for now, we have Clemson playing, taking on 27 seed UAB. If you've seen the last playoff, you'd be shocked to see that they're in a 5-point game with the Blazers, but UAB has a minute and a half to go down the field and score the go-ahead touchdown, so they could actually take down the Tigers, but they still have a lot of work to do, and that ball is not held on to, which is frustrating because it was put exactly where it needed to be, but it got punched out, so it is now 4th and 7, and they are not picking that up. UAB has all 3 of their timeouts remaining, so they could technically get the ball back, but if Will Shipley picks up one first down, it's over, and he's going to do it plus stiff arm a guy. I'm impressed with the effort that UAB put up there, but they're not going to beat the Tigers, and we've made it to the final region, the West region. So let's hope this opening round ends with a bang, where Washington gets the other first round bye, and this is the first matchup in the region. I'm not even the slightest bit surprised that Nebraska is trailing, and that ball was inaccurate, so it's going to be intercepted by Texas State, which means they are one first down away from taking down the Cornhuskers, and at the very least, they can burn through all 3 of their timeouts, but it will depend what TJ Finley does on this 3rd and 12, and he just keeps it instead of passing. That gives Nebraska some hope still, but they have to go all the way down the field in 45 seconds, and I feel like Henrich Harburg is better at hitting Texas State defenders' hands than his own receivers. It's now 3rd and 10 where we have yet to see him complete a pass. Maybe he can do it on this play, which he does. That one's going to go to the 48, but it's not enough to move the chains, so they need at least 1 yard here to keep their drive alive, and that was almost picked. Texas State is going to beat Nebraska, and that means not a single 16 seed got a win. Now we have a very even matchup on paper, but Iowa State's a 9 seed while North Texas is a 24, and this proves that overall isn't everything. It was a 2 to 3 possession game throughout the entire thing, and either way the Cyclones will be playing a smaller school. I figured it would be 8 seeded Miami, Ohio, who just beat Toledo in the MAC championship, but they're about to go down by a point to Colorado State, and that means that Brett Gabbert has to lead them down the field, but Kamara got in to make a tackle for loss there, and on this one he's going to find his receiver for the first. If you didn't already know, Brett Gabbert is the brother of NFL quarterback Blaine Gabbert, and after taking that costly sack, he needs to hike the ball, but before doing so, he's taken the clock down to 23 seconds, and they're not going to reach the first down marker with this pass. They're still a long way away from field goal range, so there's not much hope left for the Red Hawks as they're not getting the first, and they wanted to save that last timeout just to have it because they're not going to be able to use it. This is going to have to be the final play of the game. He's going to be stopped short, and there was no way that Brett Gabbert was about to reach the end zone there. 25 seed Colorado State pulls off the upset, and they'll be facing the Cyclones in the next round, but now we're going to put our focus on Louisville, Kentucky, where the Cardinals are losing by 11 points with about a minute left, and I was not expecting this. I love to see Kentucky's in-state rival suffer, but Tulsa is not a good team. They are a 29 seed for a reason, so I can't believe they're winning. And the Cardinals just made a big mistake by burning one of their 3 timeouts there, because even if they get in, which they were somehow able to do with this catch, they have to recover the onside kick to get the ball back, and Jawar Jordan couldn't pick up the 2-pointer. Alright, it all comes down to this. The ball is there, Tulsa is going to hold on, and that is going to be it. It is a beautiful day when Louisville loses, especially like this, because that is a major upset, and there is so much chaos going on in this playoff. Wyoming's actually going into this game as the higher seed, but they weren't able to beat the Cougars, and they lose by 10 at home to Donovan Smith, who didn't have a great game, but their running back Parker Jenkins did. Just like Cincinnati, Houston kind of fell off after joining a real conference, but I hope those colleges get things figured out in the Big 12 in the future, and Air Force might have gone into this game as the higher seed, but they just got bullied by the Spartans, losing 52-7. Their defense somehow made Noah Kim look like Tom Brady, and what a disappointing performance for the military school. This next matchup features a 5 seed and a 28 seed, and I never thought I'd see the day where the Iowa offense would be able to score this many points, but unless Ball State can pull off the craziest comeback of all time, it's all over, and it's almost hard to believe that Deacon Hill put up these stats. That's the first time we've seen the Iowa offense play that well in NCAA football, and there's only 8 games left in the round of 126. One of them's Ohio State versus East Carolina, so it makes sense that this one was a blowout where the Buckeyes won by 28, and they'll get either Cal or South Alabama next. With about 50 seconds left, the Jaguars are down 17, but they just reached the end zone, and if they could get this onside kick, their comeback hopes wouldn't be over, but they're not going to. Jade Knott simply played too well, so he's going to push the Golden Bears forward, and we're getting some MAC action with this one, as these teams are playing in the Battle of I-75. Toledo's defense played amazing, holding Bowling Green to just 3 points, so they're going to get the win in this rivalry matchup, and I'm sure that they're rooting for 26 seed San Diego State, but the Aztecs are trailing by 6 with a minute remaining, so they have to go down the field, and that's going to be very difficult to do against this Utah defense that's normally really solid, but they just gave up a big passing play, and now they're on their side of the field. This one's going to go for what looks like another first, and they also got out of bounds in the process. 38 seconds now, Jalen Mayden's going to sling it, and he has a wide open wide receiver. So I don't know what happened with Utah's defense over here, but neither of those guys decided to stick with him. With this extra point, they're going to go up by 1, and Bryson Barnes only has 34 seconds left, so why are they running the football? To make matters worse, they're not using one of their 3 timeouts. And if there's a fix out there for how dumb the AI on this game can be sometimes, I need to get it because that would make these videos even better. Anyway, for now it just adds to the madness, as 7-seeded Utah just got upset, and what a performance from San Diego State. That result should remind Penn State that anybody can lose at any time, so they came out versus Louisiana Tech firing away on all cylinders, and they got the easiest win that they've had all year. The teams fighting to play them in the next round though are going to have to battle it out, and I can't believe it's taken this long for the Auburn offense to have any success. They've made it to where it's almost impossible for them to come back, and after that onside kick it definitely is, because BYU's just going to run out the rest of the clock with runs like this, and we're left with just 2 games in the West region, where all 4 of the remaining schools are smaller ones, and I cannot believe that not a single touchdown has been scored in this game. That's right, UNLV has 2 field goals while Old Dominion has 4, and they're not picking up this 3rd down, so they're going to need to find a way to convert on 4th and 9. It looks like they're about to run an option of some sort. It was a halfback screen, and Old Dominion's going to get the win over UNLV. They went into that one as a much lower seed, and James Madison versus Navy will conclude this first round. Well, the Dukes were the higher seed, but they couldn't stop the option, so Navy's going to go into their place and upset them, and we're ending the round of 126 with a 27 seed winning. That was crazy, but now we have to head back over to the North region because it's time to start the round of 64. Michigan hasn't had to play yet, so we'll see how they do, and they didn't play the best, but they're still going to win by 24, with their next opponent being either a 24 or a 25 seed. With a minute and a half left, the Bearcats are trailing by 6, but they also have the football, so this has been a very even matchup, and we'll see if Emory Jones can lead them down the field. He's chucking this one up, but it's picked off by the Sun Devils, and his 3 interceptions are going to cause them to lose. Michigan has the easiest round of the Sweet 16, but you never know when a lower seed's going to make a deep run themselves, and Arkansas State was trying to be one of those colleges. Their defense kept them in this one, but their offense didn't do a thing, so I don't think they're going to beat Notre Dame, but they have the ball back with a minute and a half inside the Irish's red zone, and there's their first touchdown. Even though they have all 3 of their timeouts, they're still going for the onside kick, and that one just soared all the way back to the 20. I have never seen that, but it works out for them because they can get a stop on the Irish, and Audric Estimi's going to have to run the ball a little bit better. He's hitting the outer edge here, and he is going to get close to the marker, so Notre Dame should seal it on this 3rd down where Sam Hartman keeps it, and why would they pass? Now they have to punt the ball back to Arkansas State with a minute remaining, and they didn't even make them burn their final timeout, giving them a better chance at winning because stat-wise it's been pretty even, and if Jalen Rayner can pull that off, he would get his 20 seed into the round of 32. Taking a sack there wasn't the best of starts as they had to then spike the ball on 2nd down, and they're not getting anywhere on 3rd and 12. So it looks like the Red Wolves are going to come up short, but they had an amazing effort in this game, and they're breaking that tackle, but he's not making it to the 1st down marker. He fumbled it there, and what's crazy is this almost worked for his teammate to pick this down at the marker and get him a 1st. It was still a few yards back though, so the Irish are going to win, and that game was so entertaining. 28 seed Middle Tennessee State's coming off of a win over 5 seed SMU, but with 2 minutes left, they find themselves down by 11 against Wisconsin, and we couldn't have expected them to win, but holding on to passes like this would definitely help them. I feel like this game's going to be very similar to the one we just watched between Notre Dame and Arkansas State, as this is a mid-major versus a powerhouse, and they're on the verge of getting it back within a possession. Here on 3rd and 1, they're going to throw it to the end zone, but it's swatted away, and that was a huge play from the Badgers, but on 4th and 1, they're not going to clutch up, so Middle Tennessee State's very close to punching it in, and just like Arkansas State, they still have all 3 of their timeouts remaining. They're getting the 2-pointer, and they should be kicking it deep, but they want the ball back immediately, and they might have bounced on that. I wasn't able to tell who got it, but it looks like they recovered, and that is exactly why I spectate these games. When I saw they were down by 11, I could have very well just skipped to the end, but I didn't, and I'm very thankful for that because we could witness a 28 seed pulling off another upset, but now that they've taken that sack, it's a lot less likely because it is now 4th and 15, and that was an abysmal showing right there. They didn't get a single yard, but they have all 3 of their timeouts, so they're still trying to stop Braylon Allen, and if they can hold him on 3rd and 5, it won't be over. He doesn't have the speed to get to the outer edge, and with a touchdown, Middle Tennessee State can still win. Just by judging how their last drive went, I don't see that happening, but they've already picked up the 1st down, and they were also able to get out of bounds. Now they're going for the deep shot, and he missed him. I have a feeling that quarterback Nicholas Vitito is going to regret that one, but he is finding another wide receiver on this play, and 15's going to make it to the 22. All of a sudden, the Badgers are in trouble, and this is going to be another 5 or 6, but they're going to waste their 3rd down by spiking the ball, and they still have about 20 yards to go to reach the end zone. These hitches aren't going to do it, and Wisconsin's going to get the win at home. Braylon Allen did just enough in this game, and next up for the Badgers will be Notre Dame in the round of 32, but we have a lot more matchups before we see how that plays out. Going into this one, Oregon's the favorite by 15 points, but with a minute remaining, they find themselves only up by 7, and Boston College is about about to get a massive play on the Ducks. This is going to go all the way to their red zone. If Oregon's defense can't stop Castellanos, it's going to be all tied up at 27. And that was a big sack from Casey Rogers, but they still have a lot more work to do because they're getting another first plus more. Jaden Williams stumbled into the end zone, and now Bo Nix has the ball, but he's just going to take it to overtime as this is their final play, and that's not going far enough. So we will see what happens, and Bo Nix is going to take this first snap where he's running it with the option, and he is just going to get caught. He almost made it to the end zone himself, but they're going to have to do it on this play with another option, and Boston College is trying to do their best to respond back. It is now 3rd and goal from the 12, though. There's plenty of time back there for Castellanos, and he finds his receiver. However, I see that Oregon is now celebrating, so I think we all know what that means. Their kicker had one job, and he missed the extra point, which I obviously didn't spectate because I thought that was a given, but it wasn't. And now Oregon moves on to play either Duke or Kansas State. I figured the Blue Devils would do better than this, but they're punting down 17 with a minute remaining, so they've just given up versus the Wildcats, and it makes sense when you see how bad their stats have been. That means we're on to 3-seeded Missouri versus 19-seeded Western Kentucky, and until recently we were having so many close games, but this one was also a blowout, and that leaves us with one matchup remaining in the North region. Pitt has to be the scariest 22 seed in the playoffs, but they didn't play well versus Oklahoma State the same way that they did versus 11-seeded UCLA, and surprisingly Alan Bowman was the issue, not Ollie Gordon. The bottom half of the North region was a wash, but now we're traveling over to the East region, and this is the one with Alabama and Florida State. Cam Ward might be able to stir up some trouble here, but there's only so much he can do as his team's trailing by 11 with 2 minutes remaining, and if they could be the first team to upset a 1 seed, that would be insane, but they got a lot of work to do with this comeback, and he's going to throw this one to the end zone where it's intercepted by the Crimson Tide. The Alabama defense was able to clutch up, and it's hard to believe that USF's hosting a game, but they're a higher seed than Virginia, so they cruised to an easy win where they held the Cavaliers to 0 points, and I didn't realize Virginia's offense was that bad. It's going to get us a rematch of the Alabama USF game though, and here we got 2 SEC schools taking on each other, where Jaden Daniels went off and the Tigers defense held Mississippi State to 7 points. LSU is playing really well currently, so I doubt either of these colleges want to face them next, but Tulane's going to get the honor of doing so if their defense can clutch up one last time, and they've held a Maryland offense all day, so I wouldn't be surprised if they stop Talia Tagovailoa 2 more times and they're going to get the interception on this 3rd and 12. That seals it for the Green Wave, and he might as well take this back to the crib. That round of 32 matchup's going to be a battle for the state of Louisiana, and there's so many exciting things happening in the East region. We get to see if Florida State can win without Jordan Travis, and so far they've been crushing teams as at one point they were up 38-13. They're just going to get the interception here, and forcing 5 turnovers is crazy. Now they're awaiting their next opponent, and Baylor put up a good fight for a 26 seed, but it's not going to be enough. They'd have to pull off a pretty miraculous comeback, and Texas A&M's only getting 3, so technically it's not over, but I didn't think they'd score that quick, and we'll see if they get this onside kick, but Texas A&M's going to recover, which does seal their win. The Aggies are moving on to the round of 32 with Max Johnson as their quarterback, and if only they could play this well in real life. 30-seeded UTEP was the lowest seed to win a game, but I didn't think they'd go into Georgia State's place and come this close to getting another. Even though the Panthers are going to get in there and also on the 2-point conversion, they still have a 3-point lead, and they're going to recover the onside kick, which puts them in a good position because all they need is 1 first down, and with this quarterback run, I think they're going to get it. That's an amazing play. The underdog run is continuing, and we'll see how far the 30 seed can go. Their next game's going to be against either Marshall or NC State, and the Thundering Herd upset Florida in overtime, but who would have thought that they would have a 6-point lead on NC State with a minute remaining? The Wolfpack were a much higher seed going into this one, and on 3rd and 5, MJ Morse is going to go deep, and it's going to be picked off by Marshall. They just went into their place and got the upset, so they've done that in back-to-back matchups, and no matter what happens in the round of 32, an underdog's making the Sweet 16. With all that just happened in the East region, it's going to be hard for the South region to top that, but maybe the Fighting Illini can give Texas a scare, and I cannot believe it is a 4-point game with a minute left. How is Illinois even in this against Texas? Luke Altmaier might be one of the worst quarterbacks on College Football Revamped, and I've never seen Illinois do well in any of the sims I've done this year, so I'm surprised their defense kept them in it, but now they have to pick up this 4th and 5, and they do. There is still a chance that they go into the Longhorns' place and beat Texas, which would be insane, and Isaiah Williams kept the chains moving by falling forward there, but they're not going to get the first down on this play, so they have to hurry things up and spike the ball, but before they could do that, they committed a false start, and they're right back to where they started to play. Go on 2nd and 9, they just went with another check down, but they're going to fight for the first, and the clock ran down to 9 seconds before they could spike it after that, so now they need to at least get out of bounds on this one, but that wide receiver had 0 awareness, and Texas is going to avoid getting upset at home, but if they want to keep winning, they're going to have to play better. Next up, my Wildcats are playing at the Tar Heels, and I'm worried about what Drake May's going to do to our defense, but he's only been able to put up 21 points, and the issue's been our offense. Devin Leary didn't sense the pressure well there, and we're punting it back to the Tar Heels on 4th and 21, which is the right move since we have 3 timeouts. But to get the ball back, we got to stop Amari and Hampton. And obviously, I'm rooting for Kentucky to get it done, but I don't think it's going to happen. That run from Drake May makes it a 3rd and short where they're not picking it up. But even then, Devin Leary has to drive the Wildcats all the way down the field. And I did not enjoy watching him this year, but I am excited for Brock Vandegrift transferring in from Georgia. So I'm being very optimistic, but I'm hoping in the next 2 years my Wildcats can make a run. And if they ever sneak into the 12-team playoffs in football, I'll be there. That was a bad throw though. And to be honest, I don't know what Devin Leary was thinking. That should have been picked, but the drive stays alive for Kentucky, and that's going to be just short. 5 wide on 4th and inches is an interesting play call, but it's going to pay off in the end. And Devin Leary's got 25 seconds to go 25 yards. On this one, he's going to take a sack though, and that's probably going to do it. To make matters worse, we're also having a false start. So all of a sudden, it is 3rd and 23, and the halfback screen to Ray Davis went nowhere, which means North Carolina is moving on to play Texas. And with that result, I'm ready for as much chaos as possible. Southern Miss is a 29 seed, but they already upset Arizona. So I'm not stunned that they're in a close game with a minute remaining versus the Hokies. They're going for the deep shot on this play though, and it's intercepted. That is the first one that we've watched. It's already over. Virginia Tech's going to get the win. And after this performance, I was going to get Kyron Drones to transfer there. Of those 2 teams, I'm sure the Hokies would rather play the Roadrunners next, but UTSA is an 83 overall on paper. So even though they're a smaller school, they're not bad, but I could have never predicted that they would be up 40-13 on Oregon State. And no matter what the Beavers do here, it's all over, so it really doesn't matter. Frank Harris went crazy throwing for 4 touchdowns, and this is what the top half of the South region looks like. But now we get to move on down to the bottom half, where it's still throwing me off to see Georgia listed as a 2 seed. Against Syracuse though, they came out playing very well, which is why they're going to win by 17, and they'll be getting either USC or Tennessee next. Surprisingly, Caleb Williams has struggled in this game as he just threw another interception, and I never thought I'd see the day where he threw 5 picks, but there's a reason that Tennessee was able to win this easily without Joe Milton playing that well. That round of 32 matchup is going to be sweet, and here's 2 more SEC schools trying to punch their ticket into the round of 32, where Ole Miss has a 6-point lead with a minute and 17 seconds left, but the Razorbacks have the ball. So this is KJ Jefferson's time to shine, and after throwing for a 1st down, they're now at the 40-yard line where he's going to take the sack and lose the ball in the process. So it is 3rd and 18 where he is going to drop back, go over the middle, and that was probably better off just being swatted to the ground, but their odds of converting on this 4th and 18 are very slim, and there's no way that was reaching it. I don't know why he didn't set his feet, but it's going to allow Ole Miss to get another win, and Clemson had a scare in the last round versus UAB, so I thought they'd play better against Boise State, but they're trailing by 4 with 46 seconds left, and with this interception, Cade Klubnik just cost the Tigers the game. The refs are saying he got a foot in bounds, so Boise State's going to get the win, and who would have thought they'd go into Death Valley and do that? Before we can start the round of 32, we have one more region to get through, so we're back out in the West where Washington hasn't played yet, and they have a nice little warm-up opponent in Texas State. They're going to win this one 42-14 with no issues, and 25 seed Colorado State's trying to pull off another upset, but they didn't play very well as the Cyclones are going to beat them by 26, and Eli Sanders ran all over their defense. I need to see some more competitive matchups again, and to get to this point, both of these schools pulled off upsets, so we will see what 29 seeded Tulsa can do down by 3 with a minute left. They were able to beat 4 seeded Louisville on the road, so this shouldn't be as hard, but they have to get at least a field goal on this drive if they want to tie it up and send it to overtime. And after Braylon Braxton ran for a ton of yards on that last play, the defense wasn't letting it happen again, but because they have so many quarterback spies out there, he had plenty of time to throw the ball on that play, and this halfback screen's going for 6. I don't think Tulsa's going for the field goal. They're going for the win, and on 3rd and 1, we'll see if they're able to pick it up, which they are with this catch. Houston's defense better step things up quick, and this is going towards the end zone, but it's dropped, so the Cougars DB might regret this for a long time, but it'll all depend on whether or not Tulsa can score a touchdown, and that's fumbled where Houston's going to recover. Their quarterback's knee was far from being down either, so that is the clutch stop that the Cougars were looking for on that drive, and they're moving on to the round of 32, where the 20 seed's going to be playing a school from the Big Ten. The Hawkeyes performed very well offensively in their last one, but they've only scored 17 versus the Spartans, so they find themselves down by 2, and it looked like Deacon Hill wanted to go deep on that play, but he couldn't get it off in time, and that was a bad throw. To stay in it, they need to pick up this 4th and 10, but they tried to get the halfback draw to work, and LaShawn Williams Jr. was not able to make it close to the marker. So 21 seed Michigan State gets another win, and we'll see how deep of a run they can make. These 20 seeds are having a pretty good playoff so far, and here are the final 4 matchups of the round of 64. I think Cal's defense gives them a chance against the Buckeyes, but if they want to compete, they're going to have to play perfectly, and the Golden Bears simply weren't able to keep up with Ohio State on the road. They gave up like 250 rushing yards, and one of these smaller schools has to face the Buckeyes next, where either program could still come out on top because we are set up for a very close finish in this one. Toledo has the ball with 2 timeouts left, down by 4, and DeQuan Finn's going to escape the pocket and rush for a bit, but instead of trying to fight for a 1st down, he decided to slide, so they have to pick it up here, and if they're going to reach the end zone, they're going to have to start moving it down the field a lot quicker than this. With the clock still running, checkdowns aren't going to help them, and it is 3rd and 2 where they're hitting them with the halfback screen, and that is not reaching the marker either. Toledo's had a very good season, but it seems like they're about to be eliminated from the playoffs. Daquan Finn's trying, and they might have enough time to get 2 plays off, but he's going to have to hike this ball quicker than that. Now there's only 2 seconds left, and that is not reaching the end zone at all. San Diego State did what they needed to on defense to clutch up, and the 26th seed has to face Ohio State next, so they're most likely not going to have an easy time in that one. But now we have to focus our attention on Penn State, where they're going to win by 28 points against 19-seeded BYU, and they'll be playing either 22-seed Old Dominion or 27-seed Navy. Both of these teams had to pull off upsets to get into this position, but right now quarterback Grant Wilson is 9 for 26, so it's impressive they're still in it, and if the Monarchs want to keep their run alive, they're going to have to send this to overtime with a touchdown, but they still got a decent bit to go, and here on 3rd and 5, I think they're going to get it. Their wide receiver had to fight for the first down, but he was willing to, and now Grant Wilson's going to scramble for at least 7 or 8, so Old Dominion's starting to move it, and they still have 30 seconds to reach the end zone, so it's not very far-fetched, but then their offensive line had a false start, so they're in a 1st and 15 situation where Grant Wilson's going to take the sack and lose the football. It is picked up by the Old Dominion offensive line, and they were about back at midfield somehow. He's fighting out of bounds, and I'm not going to let this effort from the offensive lineman go unnoticed because this is a massive deal. The fact that they were able to stop the clock there and have a chance to regroup is massive, but they still have to be able to do something about it, and on 3rd and 25, they're going for the deep shot where it's knocked away. Old Dominion still has a chance to score on the Hail Mary where they're putting it up towards the end zone, and it's caught, but he's a yard short, so Navy's defense was barely able to hold on, and this result concludes the round of 32. Now everybody's playing for a spot in the Sweet 16, and 25-seed Arizona State's had to make quite the run to get to this point, but if they can't pick up this 4th and 7, it's probably going to come to an end, and their running back isn't going to make it to the first down marker, or he is. That keeps their drive alive and their hopes at beating the Wolverines alive. He is fighting for every extra yard, but the Sun Devils are still going to need a touchdown, a stop, and then another touchdown after that, so they need to go quick, but they've been taking their sweet time, and that one is almost picked. It is 4th and goal now, where their quarterback drops back and lasers it over the middle of the end zone, so they've gotten it within a possession, but now they're going for the onside kick instead of kicking it off, and I don't know why because they have all their timeouts. They can still force a 3 and out though, so they have to stop JJ McCarthy, and he keeps that for the first down, which means no matter what, Michigan can run it down to about 25 seconds remaining, and Blake Corum just refuses to go down. This should be enough to scare the Wolverines into playing better in the next round because it shouldn't be this close, and they have to pick up this 3rd and 2 where they're risking it by passing, but that's going to lead to a touchdown. Arizona State's not going to be able to pull off the comeback after that, and the Wolverines are playing either Notre Dame or Wisconsin next, but if it's going to be the Badgers, Braylon Allen has to go off, and since he didn't, the Irish are going to win by 28. Notre Dame and Michigan both have a spot in the Sweet 16 now, and here in the North region, we'll see which of these 4 teams ends up joining them, but if I had to make a pick in this game, I would choose Oregon. Evidently, I made the right choices. They're going to win 31-3, and they had almost 500 total yards to Kansas State's 100. That was pure domination, so hopefully this one's a bit closer, and with less than 2 minutes remaining, 3-seed Missouri is trailing, but if they reach the end zone, they're going to be able to take a lead, and Brady Cook is not going to do that here. That completion didn't do much for the Tigers, so it was pretty pointless, but that pass did as they're going to take a 3-point lead, and Alan Bowman needs to at least get Oklahoma State in field goal range, and he has plenty of time to do it. The pressure is on though, so we'll see if he can step up in the process with this pass being caught by Brennan Presley, and this is by far the cleanest one that we've seen in this video. It is 3rd and 3 though for the Cowboys. They did not pick up the first with it, and they're going to on this play instead, so they might as well continue to feed Brennan Presley, but that's going to be picked off by Missouri to seal the win. I don't know what he was thinking throwing straight into that linebacker's hands, but Alan Bowman has lost it for them, and the Tigers can thank him as they move on to play the Ducks. We've already had 4 spots in the Sweet 16 decided, and now we see if 24-seed USF can pull it off against Alabama, but unfortunately it wasn't even close as the Bulls could only put up 7 points, and the Crimson Tide are moving on to the Sweet 16. I have to give credit to USF for making it this far, but we need closer matchups like hopefully this one is, and Tulane tried their best, but after the first quarter they never got it closer than 10. That's fine though because I'm looking forward to this game in the Sweet 16, and we're about to see if the Seminoles continue to dominate. Even with Roadmaker at quarterback, they've been winning their games with ease, but it's been a defensive battle versus Texas A&M as neither team scored very much, and they just got a huge goal line pick down in the red zone. The Aggies can't stop the clock, so the Seminoles are going to win, and their defense is the only reason that they're not being eliminated right now. Fortunately for them, their next matchup should be cake, and I could honestly see 30-seed UTEP winning their 3rd straight. However, Marshall is the program that's beaten some bigger teams already, and it seems like they're going to do it again today, because unless the Miners recover this onside kick, they're done, and that was one of the worst ones that we have ever seen. Marshall becomes by far the highest seed to make it to the Sweet 16, and now we have to head over to the South region, where Virginia Tech's the highest seed remaining at 13. I'm expecting this one to turn into a classic, and it still could, but Drake May would have to lead the drive of the century. He picked up 6 on that first play, and now he's going deep with this bomb that's going to be dropped and then almost caught, but J.J. Jones was not able to locate the ball successfully. So it's back to the Tar Heel side of the field where it's 4th and 4 and that's swatted down. They have to convert here or it's all going to be over, and that's what they do with the wide receiver screen. But Drake May still needs to lead his team about 50 more yards down the field to find the end zone. And normally I wouldn't like a run play call there, but Omarion Hampton's awesome, and that's a good catch as well that's being broken for even more yardage. You can tell the North Carolina players do not want to lose to the Longhorns. They don't want to be eliminated here, but they have to do something better than that on this 4th and 2, and of course they're going to pick it up. Drake May has been clutch in that sense, as whenever they have to pick something up, he makes sure that they do it, and I'm confident that he can get them 8 yards in 15 seconds, but he might take a sack here, and that is not good. They have one timeout remaining, but they're not going to use it, and the Tar Heels are going to lose at Texas. Even with 126 teams, we've yet to see a 1 seed lose, and the Roadrunners want to give it their best shot, but they have to beat Virginia Tech first, which is far from guaranteed, as with 1 minute and 44 seconds left, they're losing by 2 points to the Hokies, and Frank Harris tried to make something out of nothing there, but he only was able to get a few yards, so it's a good thing that his receiver held onto the football there, and this one is only going to get them another few. DeCorian Clark has been hanging on to it, and they go with the halfback draw on 3rd down, so they're stuck in a 4th down situation where they ran the clock down to 20 seconds before picking it up, and I don't know why they did that, but I guess they're just going to settle for a field goal, and they were confident that their kicker could hit from here, as he is going to just make it. UTSA is moving on to the Sweet 16, and if they can win that in-state battle, they'll go on to the Elite 8, but now we can focus on Georgia versus Tennessee, and just like no 1 seeds have lost, no 2 seeds have lost yet either. That could change right now though, because the Volunteers have the ball down by 4 with 1.5 minutes left, and if Joe Milton can get his team into the end zone, they would take the win, moving on to the Sweet 16 where they're getting closer. I would advise them to slow it down a bit so they don't leave the Bulldogs too much time left on the clock, but they're starting to take timeouts even though it doesn't make any sense for them to. And that pass was swatted down, making this a 3rd and 3 where Joe Milton had no control of the ball. He put too much on that one, making it a 4th down that they have to pick up, and he looked in the flat to his running back, but the Georgia defense read that like a book, so Tennessee has been eliminated, and the 2 seeds continue to have success, and besides Oklahoma losing to UTEP, the 3 seeds have also done pretty well. That could all change here though if Boise State is able to have a successful drive down the field. They're already getting 20, and the Broncos might not have any timeouts, but Talon Green seems determined with this one not going anywhere. If I were Boise State, I would just take some deep shots down the field, and that's exactly what they're doing. So at least they're not doing something stupid like handing it off, but they almost took a sack there. This is inbounds, and they're going to have enough time to get another snap off where they don't pick up the 1st down, but it was a close call as he was stopped just short of reaching the 41. The Rebels are going to get the win that they were looking for though, and they'll play Georgia in the Sweet 16, but before that we have 4 more games, and all of them take place here in the West region. There are a lot of underdogs that could really make a name for themselves, and I cannot believe that Washington is trailing Iowa State with 1.5 minutes remaining where Michael Penix just threw an interception to the Cyclones. His team has 3 timeouts, but if they don't force a 3 and out, they're going to lose this game, and that would make the Huskies the first 1 seed to be eliminated, where they are going to get out to the running back, but it's 3rd and 2, so Iowa State doesn't need much, and they're going to pick it up on this play. I cannot believe that they just lost at home to Iowa State, but the 9 seed continues to get the results that they're looking for, and this is the first time that they've had to beat somebody good. They're getting a 20 or a 21 seed next, so they might be on to the Elite 8, and unless Houston can score 11 points in about a minute, they're going to lose to the Spartans. Donovan Smith tried his best to carry this team, but at the end of the day, there's only so much he can do. He's chucking up a prayer, it's knocked down, and Michigan State made the Sweet 16. That was another program I would have never guessed would make it here, but like I said, the West region had a ton of crazy results, and to get to this point, 26 seed San Diego State's had to do a ton, but I would have never guessed they'd be up by 14 versus the Buckeyes. I guess this is why Kyle McCord's transferring out. He is no good as he's losing to the Aztecs, and if he can't get his team 2 touchdowns in a minute, they're going to be eliminated. He has targets like Marvin Harrison Jr., so there's really no excuses, and it could all be over for Ohio State here at home on this 4th and 3, but they're going to pick it up or not. That one's not even on Kyle McCord as it was just dropped, and the Aztecs become the highest seeded team to make the Sweet 16 with Jalen Maiden leading the way. I cannot believe that they just doubled the Buckeyes score, but that should make Penn State prepared versus Navy, because I doubt they want to get upset as well. But as time winds down, it's surprisingly close, and they're not getting in, or maybe they did. The refs have given it to them. That means even if Navy doesn't recover this onside kick, they're still going to have all 3 of their timeouts remaining, and they could get the ball back from the Nittany Lions if they get 3 stops. So we'll see what they can do. It's now 2nd and 13 where Nick Singleton has the open hole, and he's not going to make it there, but he came dang close, and they didn't stack the box on 3rd down, so Penn State's going to escape with a win. And Drew Aller is very lucky because his team just made it into the Sweet 16. This is what the bracket looks like going into the final 4 rounds, and from this point forward, the matchups are just going to continue to get better. They should be a lot tighter, as with about 75 seconds left, Notre Dame's in a tight game versus the Wolverines, and Sam Hartman just made an amazing throw to get his team on the other side of the field, but if they're going to take the lead, they still have a lot of work to do, so they cannot have drops like that. There's another first down for the Irish. They're the 4 seed going up against a 1 seed trying to beat them, but Michigan's defense just stepped up, making this a long 3rd and 17 where Sam Hartman is going to get the throw out, but it's not going far. They didn't gain a single yard on that play, so they're going to need a lot on this one, and he doesn't get it out. So the Irish are going to fall short of beating Michigan, and the Wolverines are the first team to make the Elite 8. They'll be playing either Oregon or Missouri next, and this is another one that I'm hoping is close, but it wasn't at all, as the Missouri offense only put up 3 points on the Ducks defense, which is just embarrassing. Brady Cook turned it over 3 times, and we've got another big time matchup following that one. However, for the first time in this playoff, Jaden Daniels has struggled as they only have 14, and I thought he'd do better than this, but it was just disappointing. Those were 2 matchups that I was really looking forward to, because it's going to be hard for Marshall to keep this next one close, but to be honest, that's okay, because the Seminoles are going to destroy Marshall, getting us a chance to see who would really win between Alabama and Florida State. That game will tell us who deserved to have the 4 seed in the playoffs, and I'm impressed with how close UTSA's kept it, as they're only down by 4, but if they want to upset Texas, they have to score a touchdown to win. And on 3rd and 1, Frank Harris is going to take the snap, look over the middle of the field, and it's held on to. They've been completing a lot of shorter passes underneath, but they can't take a sack here, because that's going to cause the clock to run, and I've yet to see them have a deep play on the Longhorns defense, which they're still not doing. To be honest, all they can do in this situation is send up a prayer, and that ball's not reaching the first down marker. So the 12 seed is going to fall short, and the higher seeds won every game in this round, so we'll see if Ole Miss can break that streak versus Georgia, where I'm not sure if either team has scored a touchdown. It is 18-12, which could all come off of field goals, and that was a big play from Carson Beck to get the Bulldogs to midfield. They're still trailing to the Rebels though, and that was caught. To be honest, I thought this was going to be an interception, but that Ole Miss corner just got mossed, and now the Georgia offense has 45 seconds to go 25 yards, which is plenty of time even with no timeouts. The only issue they could run into is not picking up a first down here, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make it to the marker. So the game is going to be on the line on this 4th and 2, where I see a check down open, and Carson Beck saw it as well, getting the first down. Now he's just going to go up and spike the ball, but he needs to do it quickly, because that took 4 seconds off the clock, and time is precious in this situation, but he doesn't care, as they're going to get into the end zone anyway, and Jackson Dart has not been left with much time left, but Ole Miss has all of their timeouts remaining, so we'll see what happens, and that's already 8. They need to do that 2 more times very quickly if they want to reach field goal range, but this isn't going to do the trick for them, because with only 5 seconds left, they only have enough time to get off the Hail Mary, and the Georgia defensive line might not even let that happen. He is not getting this throw off, and once again, the higher seed loses. We have expanded the playoffs so much, but still the better teams keep on winning, and thankfully an underdog has to move on in this next game. I still can't believe that these 2 teams made it here, but 21 seed Michigan State is favored on paper, and they ran up the score on the Cyclones, winning this one 35-7, and maybe by even more. For a 78 overall, Noah Kim is going off, and we all know the Spartans are rooting for San Diego State here, which they could very well win since they took down Ohio State, but in the end, the Aztecs offense couldn't beat the Penn State defense too many times, as with 18 seconds left, they only have 14 points, and they're not getting this 4th down. So the Nittany Lions are moving on to the Elite 8, and all of these colleges are playing for a spot in the Final 4. This is the last round where there will be any home field advantage, and with 29 seconds left, the Wolverines are losing to the Ducks, but they're about to get a massive play here, which is going to take them to the 45, so we'll see if they can tie it up on this drive, and it's probably best that they drop that. JJ McCarthy only has 19 seconds left, and he's not getting the throw out, so he needs to take a deep shot to the end zone, but they go with a run to Blake Corum instead, and I think that was a terrible play call. Now there's only 6 seconds left on 4th and 10. They're going for picking it up, and they do, but they just cut things extremely close. Now he's going to get it off, so they're going to have a chance, and it's going to be knocked away, which means Oregon is moving on to the Final 4, and their father Washington isn't in the playoff anymore, so they have a chance. They'll be playing the winner of this one, which I'm stoked for, because this decides who should have gotten that last playoff spot, and Florida State is playing with an edge because they're up 21-3, and I never jump into games this early to spectate, but I was curious how they were dominating so much. From what I've seen so far, Tate Rodemaker's not the best, but they have put up 21 points, and now he throws an interception, so maybe this is the start of Alabama's comeback, and with 3 minutes left, they're down by 11 still. They've held the Seminoles to not score any points, but they've struggled to get some of their own, and this was a terrible play call. Being down 2 possessions with 2 minutes left, I think they're going to lose, and Florida State can practically seal it if they pick up this 3rd and inches, which they do. I cannot believe that the Seminoles were able to win that, but they went in Alabama Stadium and took care of business, with Rodemaker having 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. Even as Florida State's backup, he outperformed Jalen Milroe, and this is why you put the undefeated Power 5 champion into the playoff. If Texas can also beat Georgia, that would just show that the SEC had a down year, but we should have assumed the team from the best conference in college football would step up in this situation, as they have a 6-point lead with time winding down, and Quinn Ewers is going for the deep shot on their defense, which worked out. Jordan Whittington held onto the football, giving the Longhorns a chance in this game, and he got that ball out in time. What is he doing? Jonte Cook II look so lost here as he kept running backwards and forwards, which really hurts the Longhorns' chances. And that sun is hitting the right side of the field strong, so Quinn Ewers looks to the other one where he can see his receiver. And CJ Baxter was smart enough to get out of bounds, but it's still 4th and 3, so they're going to go to Xavier Worthy, who gets the first down for them. And that'll stop the clock until the ball is set. Now Quinn Ewers is going to take this snap and just go underneath again. But Texas has 1 timeout remaining, and they are refusing to use it. The sun just disappeared for this 3rd and 2, the final play of the game, where Quinn Ewers doesn't get it out, and that means Georgia's going to take the win. But we have to respect the effort from the Longhorns to try and beat them, and Carson Beck's moving on to the Final Four. No team that made the playoffs this year is going to make it there, and these 2 colleges are battling it out for the final spot, where Michigan State's going to win by 3 possessions, and it was never close. I don't know what has gotten the Spartans to play this way, but the 21 seed's making a very deep underdog run, and with only 4 teams left, they could very well win it all. Before they play again though, these 2 seeds are facing off for a spot in the championship, and Florida State did so much better than I thought they would, but it seems like their run's going to end here against the Ducks. They're down by 25 with 2.5 minutes left, so they would need a big comeback, and their defense played so well up to this point, but I guess Oregon just figured them out. Bo Nix threw for 3 touchdowns while Bucky Irvin ran for 2 and 167 yards, so Oregon has made it to the national championship, and they'll be playing either Georgia or 21 seed Michigan State. The Spartans have actually managed to keep it close here in the 4th quarter, and they've gotten it down to the goal line where Noah Kim runs it in, so they're about to go up by a point, and now Carson Beck has to respond back by getting his Bulldogs at least a field goal, and he fought there, but if he wouldn't have, it would have been 4th down for Georgia, and they're not doing great. They're a much higher overall team on paper, so I'm not sure why they're struggling against the Spartans, but they're starting to put together a drive here. Dejon Edwards is going to take this handoff for 5, and now that they're nearing field goal range, they're starting to run the ball more. That one didn't work though, making this a 3rd and 8 where Carson Beck doesn't get it out, and Georgia has all 3 of their timeouts, so they don't have to punt. They might as well still go for it on 4th and 15 though, and they're going to pick it up. 21 seed Michigan State just gave up a huge play, and unfortunately for them, that could very well cost them the game. Georgia's on a 3rd and 6, but they're still going to get a field goal even if they don't pick it up. So no matter what happens, the Spartans are going to have to get one for themselves, and we'll see what Noah Kim can do. They're hitting them with a halfback screen on this first play for no gain, and this is where the computer normally just doesn't hike the ball, which is so frustrating to see. Now the clock's at like 15 seconds left, and Michigan State's in trouble because now their odds of making it to field goal range aren't very high, and this is some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. They're going to get a final snap off, but it's not going anywhere. So Georgia's going to avoid the upset and make the championship, but I would have loved to see what the Spartans could do if they had a real drive there, and instead we're going to get to see which of these 2 seeds can win it all. We've gone from 126 teams down to 2, with this being our championship matchup, and Oregon's come out playing very aggressive as they already forced a fumble and scored a touchdown. Now we see that Georgia's in a 3rd and 13 where Carson Beck's not going to pick it up, or maybe they will. Their wide receiver fought, but the Ducks defense clamped up there, and it would take the Bulldogs until there's 2 minutes left in the 1st to score a touchdown. The next team to reach the end zone would be the Ducks, where Bo Nix is going to try and run it in here, but all they have to do is QB sneak it, and I don't know why they pass. They'd score again after that, so it is 21-7 with a minute left in the 1st half, and they almost intercepted Georgia, but instead of catching this ball, he simply just swatted it away, and if Carson Beck can't get his team into the end zone here, that would be critical, but they're going to, as Ladd McConkey found the open space, and these teams just keep trading touchdowns back and forth. Midway through the 3rd quarter, Bo Nix is trying to get his team another, and he's going to by finding his running back, with Jordan James fighting his way into the end zone, and I thought that'd put pressure on Georgia, but it seems like they're going to handle it very, very well. The Ducks would get a field goal on their next drive, but that's only going to put them up by 10 points, and from this point forward, we might as well spectate every play to see if Georgia can pull off the comeback, but they're going to need to pick up something on this 3rd and 4, and they do it with the halfback draw. I know they'd rather run instead of pass, but they also have to keep their eye on the clock because all of a sudden there's only 3 minutes remaining, and if they want to get Oregon off of the field, they're going to need their defense to come up big time. They're starting to run the clock down as it's now 2nd and 4, and Bo Nix keeps it, but he's not reaching the marker, so it is 3rd and 1, and they did the option again with this one going for the 1st down. I think that's pretty much going to seal it against Georgia, but of course one more 1st down would definitely do it, and that's what they got with Bo Nix a couple plays later. The Ducks have won the national championship, outperforming all other 125 teams, so Bo Nix is going to end college the right way, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you could smash that like button while also checking out some of my other content.